Not that much.
No, it is. I'm from this small country, so it's nice to meet people from abroad. It's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What time is it there?
Yes, we're going
um,
live. I
okay.
think
Oh,
I think it's working. Should be working. Let me see. Yes, there we are. So, hi everyone. I am here with Nicholas, Karen, and Rochelle, and we're going to try and do a live workout session here. Um, so let's get started right away. So let me see if I understand all this. Yes, there we are. So um, I wanted to start with this image, this John Singer Sargent painting. Um, what you can see when you see a painting like this, what we are likely to think is that there's a woman standing there. And if I would draw this woman, um, you know, I could draw. Oh, I have a lot of lag. I think probably because I'm also streaming. But let's just give it a try anyway. So I would think of it something like this. There's a woman. She has the head. She has the dress, arms. So here we have the dress with a lot of folds. Then here's the rest of the dress. Then we have a chair here. You know, all these things we see. Here we have the window. And that's one way of looking at it. And from a certain uh, perspective, when you think of construction, that's a really useful way of looking at this painting. But if you look at this the way a painter would look at it, then suddenly you see a completely different thing happening. For example, we see a black area there, and it continues. You know, it starts here. Oh, let me get the brush. So it starts here, but this is also black, and this is also black. You know, I have this whole area that is, and I can continue throughout the image. You know, that whole area, let's just cut it off right here. So that is a black area, and then here we have this area. And now I'm not looking at what this shape represents, but I'm looking more at the light. You know, where does the light hit the surface and what kind of shape does it create? Now that's I want to do a little exercise about that with you. So I thought let's take this image, and the first thing I would like to do is um, to divide this into three values. So if we could all create a little canvas here and fill it with. Oh, we're in the same place. That's okay. I can move.
Where? No, no. Where do you want me?
I'm trying to fill it. For some reason, I'm not able to fill this. There we go. Okay. And so the first thing that I would want you to ask to do is to take a darker value and try to make a division of, so you don't try to draw what you know, don't try to draw a face and hair, but try to divide. You can clearly see areas, for example, here where maybe I can draw a little on top. So for example, here, now I have the locked layer on. So here you can see a really hard edge. That's a clear division of dark versus light. Those are the important areas to look for because those are really clear. There are other areas where you have more like a gradient, for example, in the forehead. Those are harder, and that's where you really have to make a decision for now, at least. You know, am I going to let this be part of the dark areas or a part of the light areas. And you could even choose to lose all the density and have a brush that could only create one value, no gradients.
Mm.
And so let me see in the meantime, because I think we have a
So then
chat.
how do you keep the proportions?
Well, for now, I think proportions aren't most important.
Okay.
Um, what we want to look for is the value structure of the painting, and it's okay if the proportions are a little bit off.
Yeah.
And also, you don't have to get it right at once. You can just fill in an area and have a certain value for that, but you can adjust. For example, for now, if I want that ear to be in there, I can just carve it out. So let's see if I can do some multitasking and look if something's happening in the chat. So apparently something strange is happening with the stream.
Can they not hear or see? Or
I don't know. It doesn't say. It's probably a lot of lag, I think. I really can't check from from where I am right now.
and how would you treat that flare that's at the top of the hair? There's like a light flare over there. Do we just
Yeah.
ignore it or?
Actually, I think it's it doesn't do the composition much good. I think that it's there, or you would have to make a nicer shape of it. But as I mentioned, for now, I would try to see if you can make a clear decision. Is something uh, dark or is it light? And
Mhm.
that's the only choice you have. And that is especially hard in those areas where you have a really soft gradient happening.
Yeah.
Uh, and so for now, you have to just make a choice because uh, actually, what you're finding now is the holy grail of painting. If you well, you can see with all of your paintings, Nicholas already added another value, but in its simplicity, you can see the structure of the painting. You can see uh, the essence of what that painting is really about, and that is really the hardest part of painting because if you get that and from there on you can stay true to that value structure of the painting. If it works in its simplest form, then it's so much easier to because also you can um, make clear design choices in this stage um, that are much harder if you are already working in a painting with a lot of details. And to work this way, the other way around, is to make those decisions and you can check at any point, is my painting still uh, communicating this very same vision that I had at the very beginning when it comes to the value structure or the composition. You can see that the composition starts to be really clear, especially since we we're not allowing ourselves uh, to focus on details yet. Just that limitation of either black or white or a light gray or darker gray. It really helps us to make really clear decisions.
Yeah, so you can see in the thumbnail already what the atmosphere is and if it's going where you want it to go instead of looking at it as an object, right?
I'm sorry. I got lost in the. I was looking if the chat was if the stream was working. Sorry, could you repeat that?
It's okay. So you're more looking at like the atmosphere and the emotional value you're giving to it instead of what object you're painting. Like with model drawing, you're looking for shapes and curves and lines instead of just a naked person.
Well, I'm in this case at least of the emotional quality of a painting that I think is more a personal vision, which is incredibly important. But uh, at, at, in this exercise, I'm mostly looking in a more technical way at the distribution uh, of shapes and values. Do they work as a composition in the relationship of those shapes? Do they work well together?
Yeah.
And of course, you can eventually use that to convey an emotional quality. But it also has to do with the setting in general, the way she is positioned, the expression on her face. But those things you can achieve by techniques like this because they don't sell brushes or paint that can paint uh, sadness or you have to find a way to use the tools that you have. And in this case, um, it's just one brush without any gradients, and uh, and that's what you have to deal with, what you have to work with. But the funny thing is that the more simple your tools are, the more clear you have to make your decisions.
Yeah. The big parts are okay to do, but then you go to the details like the dress, and then it gets really difficult.
Yes, that is true. Um, the thing is that uh, it's really hard not to focus on details. This is really an exercise. That's why we're painting quite small. It's really an exercise to focus on the big areas. Um, so how are we doing? I think things are looking pretty cool actually. Um, so in my case, um, I can't choose now. So when I look at my design compared to yours, I chose my initial value much lighter than yours. So for example, when I see Nicholas, it's a good choice to use a brighter value to take the next step. For me, I would probably use a darker value because my brightest value is so bright already that these in-between values that I would add right now, uh, they are closer to the dark value rather than to the bright value. So you can look at your own design and pick the next value you want to work with in order to, uh, it's the next step to creating gradients, which we will do eventually, but not yet. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So we choose our third value.
Yes, you can pick the third value to move forward.
All right.
And in painting, it's really common to squint to to judge the values that to what it does, it basically simplifies the image. If you squint, then you can clearly see that structure of the painting. What areas are bright, what areas are dark in a more simplified way. You can even think of it in terms of painting a low resolution image of the reference. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So with an extra value, you can also more easily get a little more detail in there, because now you can choose in areas where you uh, picked only dark or light, you can now choose an extra option, and there you get to create more gradients, more details, sorry.
Mm. And then how would you treat the sleeve that she's holding up? Because there's so much stuff in there, you would just...
Yeah, well, if you squint, let me just show you how I would treat that in a very simple way would be, to squint and I can see this and this happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's the very simple way of depicting that, and from there on you can always add more details, but that's not really the point right now. For now, we only need that big visual statement. How's the software working out for you?
Yeah,
The,
good,
the
I think.
Magma, yeah, it works pretty
That's
cool.
nice. It wasn't too hard to learn.
No, that's good.
No, and it has the same shortcuts mostly as Photoshop, so that's
That's
really
right,
nice.
yes.
Oh, I was talking alone. My mic was off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say the only thing missing right now, I think, is probably more gritty brushes, or just maybe a bit more variety in the brushes.
Yes.
Mm.
Not necessarily like 1,000 brushes, but maybe just one or two that have texture in it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think they're working on that.
But I like the simplicity of it too.
Yeah, me too. In a way, I was hoping that it wasn't going to be, it's not going to be like Photoshop with all the different possibilities. The simplicity really helps to uh,
Yeah,
to keep an overview.
yeah. And still it looks like Photoshop, so we're not really you know we're still in,
Aliens. Yeah.
yeah, we know where we are, but
Yeah, that's right. This is looking good. Really cool. Karen, I see you leave out these big brush strokes. Um, I think when you like here you put a more refined end to that. I think that
Yeah.
giving that a little more subtlety will make your painting look a little more refined.
Like get the edges of these strokes.
Y yes. Oh, well, that's the good thing about this program, right? I can paint on top of yours. So what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that here, if I make that a little sharper,
Mm.
there's a clear edge there, and for example here, those
Yeah.
that defines the shape that it has a little more instead of keeping that brush stroke the beginning and the ending exactly the same.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then let me see. So in my design, what I start to see is that I I feel like I'm adding a little too much detail, and what you get is um, an area like this where I see those little dots, uh, dark, middle value, light value, all very close together, and it's not simplified anymore. And what that does is my eye gets drawn to that because it starts to look, it starts to be a detail to me. And I want my eye to be led to the face, or at least usually with a portrait like this, that's what you want your audience to look at least not the chest where nothing is happening. So that's why I would go over this area again and make sure that I simplify and again go back into the process of making clear design choices. Do I want this to be part of the dark area or part of the light area? And really make these simple visual statements. And also, um, we are really used, when we start to learn how to draw and paint, we're used to look at the reference and try to capture that, to draw exactly what we see. This is an approach where you can also start to judge, is this shape a beautiful shape? Is it working for my image? And that way you can start to design your image and really be in control of what that painting looks like instead of uh, literally following the reference, and then you become a slave to the reference, and that's something that eventually you want to create your own vision of what you see. So for example, that light shape right there, I don't think that's really a beautiful shape. I do like this curve right here that we see of the chair. um, I might add a little bit of that in there. But then again, this is where I can start to make my own design choices. So for example, I can change that shape a little bit and create this bigger curve. And same for that light area. I can choose to find a shape that works better for me. I don't think it should be too big though, because that would really affect the lighting. But still, uh, it's my design, and the reference is there only to inspire me to create a beautiful image. And that I think this is a method where it really helps to simplify so much, because that is a place where it's really doable to actually make those design choices. It's much easier in this stage to think, well, I want to change the shape of that window. You know, maybe I want to make it rounded too, like so we have this recurring shape right there. Those kinds of choices are really easy to make if the design is still so simple. And so I think this is a good moment where we can uh, take the next step really and uh, create these gradients. And now I mentioned this at the very beginning already, where I said, let me go over this, where I focused uh, on on this part, where we can see really that sharp edge between the foreground and the background. And you can find more of those places, you know, a line like this. Here we have a pretty hard edge. Here we have a pretty hard edge. But if you compare that to this area, or, you know, in the hair we have, you know, edges that are much softer, or here where we see gradients, those are areas that you can hardly solve with these three values. You really need to create gradients. And even what I am really fascinated by is to push that and to find those areas where foreground and background. You can see that here almost. If you squint, you can hardly see. When it comes to values, you can hardly see where the background is and where the foreground is. And so this is a great moment to start and find those places. So leave those areas where the edges are really hard, but try to create really soft gradients or in between gradients, depending on the kinds of transitions you see. But try to focus on those two first, just the hardest edges and the soft or lost edges. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we should just have either really soft edges or hard edges, but
Yes, for
nothing in
now to
between.
focus on you. Well, you can have the in-between edges as well, but just to make sure you see that difference clearly in your design, where you have this as a hard edge and this as a lost edge.
And you did it by just making the hardness of your brush softer, right?
I'm trying to. Yes, I think it's density.
Yeah, I think you can use density and probably hardness too. There's two sliders.
Okay.
But I think density is like flow in Photoshop.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's hardness, but I'm not. No, that's not it.
And this is also where you can make a division in the shapes. So, for example, you have shadows that are cast shadows. So, for example, right here, let's put this, turn this off. So if we go in this area, oh, why is it not showing up? So this area, you can see that the head and then color, and then you see that shadow. That's a really hard shadow. You see what I'm drawing
Mm-hmm.
here? Okay, so that compared to the forehead, which has a really soft gradient because it's rounded. So here the light hits the surface on a round surface and it gradually turns towards shadow. Here the light hits that color and the shadow is dropped on the cheek. So those are two different types of shadow, and you can clearly make a distinction in the two of them in your painting by showing them as hard or soft edges. They often appeared that way. So Rochelle,
Yeah.
I think with your drawing, your painting, if you look at the face compared to the
Mm-hmm.
body, the face has more unity in the
Yeah.
division of values, creating more like a volume. And in the body, and it's obviously what's happening in the photo, which is really complex. So it's totally understandable. But that's where you uh, lose the solidity of the volumes a little bit. So
Yeah.
try if you uh, can bring it back to really simple divisions of light versus dark, and especially if you squint, you can see that. For example, if you go in here, this area,
Yeah.
this could be a completely dark area like
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
And then you really simplify that, and from there on you can create that gradient in there.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Just simplify all the creases because for me that
Yes,
gets super complicated as well.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you. Because I get confused with that shoulder on the left. Because it's so dark near the background.
Mhm.
So this area here. where you basically have this little crease, and then this is all
Yeah,
dark,
you
basically.
can even ignore that little crease and just focus
Okay.
on the big shapes.
Yeah.
Great work, Nicholas. I can see a nice clarity in your design.
Thanks. So when you start and blend the edges, you introduce new values. So are you then using those values to add more definition in the other areas? For example, in the dress.
Well, obviously, if you add more details, you will see more values. Um, I'm really trying to make this almost like a system where you focus on those three values and then blend them. Um, if you if you do an actual painting, you will probably uh, use a wider range of values eventually to achieve the result that you want. And now you get that range from blending. And so uh, and that's always hard when finding a system to do something. If for an exercise, you can never really separate all the things of painting in an exercise. You will always run into the fact that
Yeah,
that it's more complex than just one way of doing this.
yeah. It was looking simple, and then it gets complicated.
Yes, it gets more and more complicated the further you go. But hopefully, what you can take from this is that you can create a nice balance of hard and soft edges in your design, and also you create some kind of a visual language for each painting that you do. So, for example, you can do a painting where all the edges are really soft. It's almost like you are looking at a blurred image. You can create a visual language for a painting that works that way, or you can paint with all very hard brush strokes, and you can come up with many different types of styles for a painting. And so what's important is to recognize uh, the language you create for this certain painting. For example, if we would apply it to color, it would be strange to suddenly uh, paint her lips red while everything is black and white. That's not the language of this image. That's what I mean with language.
Hmm.
And then so you create these rules, and it's good to be aware of those rules when you are painting so that you can make your decisions based on that. For example, if I want the attention to be on the face in my image right now, then I must really work on this area because now this has all the hard edges still, and the face is softer, so the attention is actually drawn away from the face instead of to the face. Oh, let me just for people who are interested. So, well, I think people can see who we are, right? By the names in the brushes. I was going to add our names, but I don't think that is necessary.
I think they can see. I don't know.
Well, I can't see mine, and I'm sharing my screen, so maybe If it's not clear, I'm the one in the middle at the bottom.
So is this what you would do just for studying, or do you use this technique in your illustration work as well?
You mean literally using just the couple of values?
Yeah, if you set up a big painting, do you start like this as well, or?
Well, I do this sometime to check the composition because not, I don't probably would go into this part where I create hard and soft values, or maybe already at the same time I would apply that, but I would definitely use this to judge the composition and the value structure of the painting because it's such an easy way of looking at what the entire painting is going to if look like eventually
Yeah.
in a way that it would look if you would just step back.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh. Sorry, my sister was dancing in the background. Sorry.
What's that?
My sister was dancing in the background, so I was laughing
Ah,
at her. Sorry.
Zara asks, isn't it better to use a black and white photo in this exercise? Um, that is easier, but it doesn't necessarily make it a better exercise. If you paint from life, the world is in color, and it's a really good thing to be able to uh, to translate the values you see to grayscale values. And even in color, it's even harder because then you would have to translate it to colored values and but still be aware of the value that they would have in if you would translate those colors to grayscale colors. So I understand your question, but it's a deliberate choice to do this with a color reference. Is that traffic sounds from India?
No, I don't stay close to the street.
Okay.
I had my mic on mute, so it's probably Rachel or Nicholas.
Well, if you hear a zoom, that's my laptop taking off because it's old. So
Okay.
it's about to lift off any second. No, it's old.
I just imagine it's street sounds from India. That's more romantic.
Yeah, that's a thing over here.
Actually, I think it was a car in my street.
Okay.
So it's funny because I'm in one of the country where the population density is the lowest in the world.
Oh, really?
But India is probably the highest, or one of the highest.
Will we hear
But
it?
still,
Your
we're
traffic.
hearing cars in my street.
I'm pretty sure it's the highest right now.
Where's the highest?
I'm sure it's India.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I'm sure it's India.
Yeah. It's probably
but
India.
Density is definitely India.
Yeah.
I think Brazil was also on the scale of density.
Yeah.
Close, but I think it's India. Yeah.
You guys are all so fast. What? Sorry.
What's that?
You guys are all so fast. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm. Yeah, sorry.
Well, that's okay. It's not about speed.
I think my lower half is kind of looking flat. Like, it's looking weird.
What is that?
I think my image is looking a bit flat in this lower area.
You mean with the hand?
Yeah, this part.
Yeah.